Hi, my name's Benji and welcome to Dice vs Cards. Today we're looking at Azul, a 2 to 4 player competitive game that has two dynamic duos of game mechanics. The first of which is drafting, because you're going to be picking certain tiles on your player turn, and tile placement, because you're going to be placing tiles on that board thingy. And the second is set collection, because you need the right volume, the right combination of tiles, and pattern building, because you're going to be building patterns to gain you the most points. So you play as a tile laying artiste, looking to add some pizzazz, some beauty to King Manuel I's royal palace of Azura, and you need to do so making the least amount of mess as possible. So let's see how this plays and whether this could be the next game for you. So the object of the game is to be the player with the most points when the endgame condition is met. To set up the game, each player will need to bring their own player board and scoring marker placed at 0 on their score track. Now all the 100 tiles that come with the game will be placed in the opaque bag provided. And then you'll need to place a number of factory displays dependent on the player count. And then the designated first player on the first turn will randomly draw 4 tiles to be placed on each of the factory displays. You're then good to go. So the game is played over multiple rounds, and each round is broken down into 3 phases. The first of which is the factory offer phase, and this is where each player in turn order is going to pick a set of coloured tiles from either a factory display or from the centre of the table, and the centre of the table will be populated as you play through. So player 1 decides to take all of the tiles of the same colour and pattern, here these two, and then has to place them on one of their pattern lines, placing tiles from right to left as they do. Now every time you fill up one of these lines, that means that in the next phase you're going to be able to place one of those tiles on the wall, ultimately getting you points. So you'll see you need more tiles as you go down each pattern line to try and place that tile on the wall. Now all remaining tiles then are placed in the centre of the display. We've skipped ahead a couple of player turns and no one as of yet has taken any tiles from the centre. But we're back to player 1 and they want to take these 2 yellow tiles and place them finishing off this pattern line here. But as you'll see, there are only 4 spaces in this line, and so that means they're going to have to spill some of their tiles on the floor and place them on the leftmost space on the floor line. And as you'll see, these are going to be worth minus points at the end of the round. Now because player 1 was also the first player in that round to take tiles from the centre, they'll also take the first player marker and place that on the leftmost free space on the floor line as well. So you'll see, whilst there's a bonus for you being the first player on the next turn, there's also a negative in the sense that you're going to get minus points. So play continues like that until all of the tiles from the factory displays and the centre of the table have been taken. We then move to the wall tiling phase, and this is where players are going to take 1 tile from all completed pattern lines and place them on the respective space on the wall. So here, for example, this completed pattern line, you'll take the rightmost tile and place it on the respective space in that row. And every time a tile is placed on its lowsome and not adjacent to another tile, you'll immediately gain 1 point. Here, these 2 black tile pattern lines are complete, so you'll take the rightmost tile and place it on the respective space on that row and place any remaining tiles in the lid of the box. So here scoring is slightly different because you're going to add any vertical or horizontally adjacent lines of tiles to your score. So in this example, you'll score 1 for the tile you placed and a further 1 because there's a vertically adjacent tile. So that adds a further 2 points to your score. Now we get to the first pattern line that's incomplete. So these 2 tiles remain there for use on a future turn. And then you get the gist of it, and we'll quickly whiz through scoring for the remaining tiles. You then need to apply negative points for any tiles that have been left on the floor, including the starting player marker. So that will contribute a minus 2 points. However, you can never go below 0 points as a result of any negative points applied at that point. We then move to the third phase, and this is where you prepare for the next round. So here the first player will again refill all of the factory displays with 4 tiles randomly pulled from the bag. Now before we move on, just a couple of points of clarity. Once you start placing tiles of a certain colour on a pattern line, you cannot mix and match. So in this example, you can only play red tiles here. And furthermore, as you'd imagine, as soon as you place the tile on a wall, you can no longer place a tile of that colour on that pattern line. So we skipped ahead almost to the end of the game because player one's about to meet the endgame objective, that being when any player completes at least one row in their wall. Now everyone gets to complete their wall tiling phase, and before we move to endgame bonuses, I just want to clarify one more time how you might score, this time on a more cluttered board when you place a tile. So placing this blue tile will give you 5 points for a line of 5 horizontal tiles and a further 3 for a line of 3 vertical tiles, giving you 8 points. Now, each player at the end of the wall tiling phase scores one more time based on any bonus points they get. So 2 points are added for any completed row on their wall, 7 points for any completed column, and any time the maximum of 5 of a particular coloured tile is placed on their wall, you'll get 10 points for each of those combination of 5 tiles you place. Now once scores are tallied up, the player with the most points is then the winner. So that's how this game plays. What did I think of it? So who is this game for? Well, it's a light to medium weight game, and it's absolutely a gateway game, because although at a glance it might look a little bit confusing, if you grab a non-gamer in your life, you're going to be able to say, trust me, you're going to appreciate this. And there's still plenty on offer in terms of depth for us board game veterans as well. Perhaps you're a painter and you wanted to try a different vocation and try being a tile master. Well, this allows you to forego all that school, all that learning, just buy this bleeding game. So you might want to consider this if you liked Sagrada, published by Floodgate Games, or Dragon Castle, published by Horrible Games, because although these are by no means the brother and sister in terms of mechanics to this, they can definitely be considered the second cousin 5 times removed in terms of the sense and the feel you get when playing them. So in terms of gameplay, we have here from a design perspective a game that's entirely focused on the core fundamentals of what makes a good game, and I mean at its most base level. It really does hark back in many ways to those old mainstream strategy games that have remained popular for decades, and it said I want to try and recreate that feel in terms of an easy to pick up game, but that's rewarding and entertaining through multiple playthroughs, and bring that up to date. Because on paper this is a very almost painfully bland game in terms of what you feel like you're going to get out of it when you sit down to the table, and it's not until you get about halfway through you're thinking, you know what, I did not expect this to be as enjoyable as it has. And that's again a testament to those core principles that the game was built around. Now as well, everything really does play quite smoothly. You know, it scales well between 2 to 4 players. You just increase the number of factory displays dependent on the number of players. So each player turn is really quite smooth. And you also have a nice priority matrix on your turn. You're always going to prioritize what's best for you, what tiles you need, and making as least mess as possible. But priority 2 is always going to be, how do I then leave everyone else with the least important tiles? So although you are considering how you can leapfrog above your opponents, it's never painfully vindictive or a painfully horrible way to do it. So really you've got this wonderful all-round package. There's very little I could criticise because mechanically there's only so much going on, but it's a game that belies all of that and ultimately it brings an enriching experience. So what didn't I like about the game? Well, there's a couple of things that in the grand scheme of things really don't add up to much. Now firstly, no matter how strategic, no matter how good you are at the game, you're sometimes going to be that unlucky sucker that gets thrown a bunch of tiles you can't do anything with. You're going to make a mess, you're going to lose points, and that can be a little bit frustrating. And secondly, I find it an odd choice to be adding bonus points for completing rows, bearing in mind that that is also the end game condition. But as you can see, I'm clutching at straws a little bit here and very much nitpicking. Now, the look and feel and theme of the game is what it is. It's a subject matter to me that isn't really going to lend itself to a sexy product, although they've done a really good job with the box art. I would say that the designers and publishers have done the best job that they can with the tools that they've got. The tiles and component quality is very well made, and the theme is very much tacked on. But as you've gathered already, that's not why you're buying this game. You're buying it because it provides a simple, rich and rewarding gameplay experience. So with all that being said, Dice vs Cards are going to give a final score of 8 out of 10. This is a game that I can highly recommend to you all. So that's it from me. I'll see you next time.
Emanuel gostudo me trabalho e disse que eu era verdadeiro mestre antes de dizer obrigado. Nailed it.